Journey of a Sister, Year 12. The Aftermath. The greatest tragedy in life is not death, it's what dies inside a person while they are still alive. Norman Cousins. 9 months later. Look, Ma, he's trying to walk. Cezanne and Ma Uncra watch eagerly as Charles Jr. takes his first steps. Come on, Charlie, you can do it. Ma Uncra coaxes him on, holding out her arms. Charles Jr. focuses on his goal and toddles towards his grandmother, stumbling once or twice, but immediately getting on his feet again. When he reaches her, they both give him a round of applause. Your brothers will be so proud of you. Cezanne praises him as she walks over to where he's now sitting on his grandmother's lap. She picks him up and gives him a big hug. Things haven't always been like this. It had taken many weeks for Cezanne and Ma Uncra to get used to the idea that he had replaced his father in their home. Memories of the first few weeks were hazy. Cezanne just about remembers Maria and her sisters coming over daily to help look after the baby, to do housework and organise Charles's cremation. He had specifically stated in his will that he didn't want to be buried in England, but wanted to be cremated and his ashes taken back to his father's village and thrown into the wind. As if Cezanne hadn't been traumatised enough, the idea horrified her at first, but now his wish makes sense. Up until now, Charles's ashes had been kept in an urn on an altar she had built in his remembrance. It included his photograph, a candle, and incense which burned constantly. In the first few weeks, she had sat in front of it daily with the baby in her arms, trying to recreate what had occurred in hospital that fateful night. But nothing happened. Eventually, she had accepted the fact that Charles had truly passed over. Flashback. While most things remained a blur, Cezanne clearly remembers the day she arrived home with her newborn. As she climbed the stairs with the yet unnamed baby in her arms, Luther Vandross's song, "A House is Not a Home," had come to mind, particularly the lines, "I'm not meant to live alone, turn this house into a home. When I climb the stairs and turn the key, oh, please be there saying that you're still in love with me." She had half expected Charles to be waiting on the other side of their bedroom door. But when she turned the handle and opened it, the first thing she saw was his painting, Trust, hanging on the wall opposite the bed. As she burst into tears, Janice and Maria, who had been following close behind, rushed forward to her aid. That's when she realised she wasn't going to wake up from this horrible nightmare. He promised to always be there for me, not to leave me to raise another child on my own. I trusted him, and now he's gone. Maria took the baby, while Janice comforted Cezanne. He didn't know this was going to happen, Susie. Don't be so hard on him. I'm sure he's watching over you from the other side, she replied gently. The other side? Can he help run a business from the other side? Can he help raise a child from the other side? Maria cuddled the baby in her arms. No, but I can. Cezanne breastfed the baby, but felt no attachment to him. At nights, she would lie in their carved wooden bed, staring at Charles's painting on the wall opposite, while Charles Jr. would gaze up at her as he suckled, trying to connect with his creatress. It seemed ironic that the painting Charles had done to honour their relationship now mocked her from the wall. Trust? She had trusted him not to leave her to raise another child on her own. After waking from the dream, Or was it a vision in which she had seen Charles in his ethereal form? She had looked into her baby's eyes for the first time and could have sworn she saw Charles's soul, as if he had straightaway reincarnated into his son's body. But now she couldn't be sure. Maybe it was just a side effect of the sedative she'd been given. For days, she had searched her baby's eyes, looking closely for any sign of Charles. When she couldn't find any, she had stopped trying and detached. So weeks had gone by where she had refused to connect with her baby's soul. Even though the experience of seeing Charles out of his body had helped her cope to some degree, his death had still caused a lot of grief. But time is the greatest healer. And sure enough, as the months passed, Cezanne had begun to heal from the trauma of her bereavement and to recover from postnatal depression. In the depth of her despair, the question she had often asked herself would resurface. Who am I, and who do I wish to be in relation to this? She wonders if she had failed the test of remembering who she is, the light, when going through a dark situation. In truth, there is no failing, just lessons to be learned. Cezanne understood that from the seeds of calamity and all experiences comes the growth of self. Ma Ancra, on the other hand, hadn't taken the death of her only son very well. She hadn't had the benefit of seeing Charles transfigured. "No one should have to bury their child," she had kept repeating, rocking back and forth on her bed. She didn't cook for weeks, which she loved, or engage with the rest of the family, thinking she may now be put in a home for the elderly. Despite her own melancholic state, Cezanne had done her best to make Ma Ancra feel as if she was still part of the family, and had promised that she would always have a place in their home. After her first few weeks of mourning, Ma Ancra had suddenly become very attached to the baby as a coping mechanism. She wanted to do everything for him, which suited Cezanne fine, but created rivalry with Maria, who wanted to play her part too. Cezanne couldn't believe that fate could be so cruel as to leave her a single mother to 3 sons. That had been her worst fear. But there she was, widowed, just shy of her 40th birthday, with 2 teenagers and a baby. Elijah and Micah had done their best to support their mum emotionally, even though they were going through their own grief. Because there had been no funeral, they were spared the trauma of having to carry the coffin and dig the grave. But still, they had both suffered silently. Leaving a legacy. Cezanne had lost all interest in the business. Elijah, then 19, took over managing the shop and office with Janice's help. He felt it was only right to replace the man who had taught him so much while continuing to study accounts part-time. Charles's transition had affected the staff too, but Elijah had seen to it that staff morale was kept high, telling them funny stories of things Charles had done with him and Micah when they were growing up. He addressed the staff in a meeting. "I want to thank you all for keeping the business going while my family grieve. Charles would have been so proud of you." Michael, the graphic designer, spoke up on behalf of the staff. "He was our best boss ever. We're going to make sure the business remains a success to keep his legacy going. Plus, he pays much better than anyone else." "Sorry." "No, it's true. Now, does everyone know what you're supposed to be doing this week?" Janice assured him. "Don't worry, Elijah, we've got it. You stick to the accounts and we'll do the rest." Charles had made sure in his will that his best friend Dave was well rewarded financially for taking on the responsibility of Ebony, almost as if he had known he would soon be departing his physical body. Dave and Maria had got engaged but decided to defer the wedding until things settled down. They were both very active in helping care for the baby, wanting Ebony to develop a close bond with her brother. Charles Jr. and Ebony could easily pass for brother and sister. Charles's genes were strong. Maria had been at Cezanne's house almost every day with Ebony, helping to care for the baby, especially when Cezanne was at the height of her grief and postnatal depression. Once Cezanne had breastfed, Maria would take over. As the baby grew, Maria encouraged Cezanne to express her milk so she could take him out, and when he was weaned, she began taking him home at weekends. Charles's death had brought them closer together. They had become like sisters. Cezanne was grateful for Maria's support and was happy for her to take the baby at weekends. By the time he was 6 months old, she hardly ever had him, or Ebony, at weekends. Journey of a Sister, Year 13. Life goes on. The Memorial. Exactly a year to the day since Charles's death, his memorial is held. It's also Charles Jr.'s first birthday. Cezanne has organised a big celebration of life. She has also planned her own Sankofa to Ghana to fulfil Charles's wish. The venue is beautifully decorated with purple and gold balloons. Cezanne has transferred the altar she had kept in vigil at their home to the front of the hall. There's also another table with a large birthday cake for Charles Jr., which has a photograph of him and a photograph of Charles when he was the same age. A big screen at the front displays a slideshow with videos and photos of Charles from baby to adult. The room is packed with friends and family, Charles's old school friends, work colleagues, acquaintances and ex-girlfriends. As everyone mingles, background music plays Cezanne and Charles's favourite songs. Cezanne takes the mic and announces that they're about to begin. When everyone has settled, she begins her speech. We are gathered here today to celebrate, not to mourn, the life of my late husband, Charles, and to celebrate our son's first birthday. The day Charles left his body and our son came into this world changed my life forever. Her voice breaks. With everything turned upside down, I began to see things from a different perspective. I began to realise that death really has no sting. I no longer fear death. I now know that the only thing that dies is the body, and that the spirit is eternal. Charles taught me so much about life. He helped me find myself, and because of him, I'm the woman I am today. This wasn't our first time meeting, and it won't be our last. We are twin souls, and we can never be separated. She takes a deep breath before continuing. I'm going to start by sharing his history. Before I begin, I would like to thank Ma Ankra for helping me with my research. She indicates towards Ma Ankra, who stands and waves feebly at the crowd, who clap for her. She continues. Born on the 24th of February 1979 at 7:32 a.m, he was given the name Kwame Gyasi Osei Mauli Ankra. Kwame means born on Saturday. It's common for the Akan people of Ghana to name their children after the day they were born. He adopted the name Charles when he came to England at the age of 10, which isn't actually on his birth certificate. The rest of his names were passed down to him ancestrally. Gyasi was his father's name, which means one who is wonderful. He received his name Osei from his grandfather, which means noble, and he received the name Mauli from his great-grandfather, which means God creates. She looks up at the crowd from her sheet of paper. Does this sound like Charles to you? Yes, they all agree. She digresses. I think it's important to reclaim our African names, not only to reconnect with our ancestral roots, but to honour our ancestors who had theirs forcefully removed. I'm glad Charles was able to pass his surname down to me before he passed over. Ankra is an anagram for Ankh and Ra, which means life and sun. I will treasure this name and keep it in remembrance of him and my ancestors. She pauses again. Charles was an inquisitive child, much like his own son who he never got to meet, but who displays so much of his character. She retells Charles's life story from childhood through to adulthood, telling the story of how they met and the impact he had made on her life, her son's lives, and the rest of his community through their business. In the 12 years that I knew Charles, he did so much for me. Apart from helping me achieve my goal of financial security, he gave me 2 precious gifts. She signals to Maria to bring Charles Jr. to the platform, placing him on her hip before continuing. A precious son to continue his legacy, and a name that connects me and my sons to our African roots. The audience clap. For the short time that it lasted, I enjoyed being able to call Charles my husband, but in truth, he was not a possession for me to own or to keep. He had simply been on loan to me from the divine. He fulfilled his sole purpose and returned to his source. Nothing belongs to me, not even this baby. But while I have him, I will celebrate his life. I'd like you to join me in singing Happy Birthday to Charles Jr. Happy Birthday by Stevie Wonder starts playing, and everyone sings and claps along, while Cezanne dances with him on her hip. When the music ends, Cezanne closes her speech. It was Charles's wish to have his ashes taken back to his motherland and thrown into the wind. I will be making that trip next month, so this is your last opportunity to say goodbye to him. Everyone queues up in a line to walk past the altar, paying their last respects. Then the party begins. During the celebrations, Ishmael approaches. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, you look familiar. Have we met before? Yeah, I was at your wedding, remember? Oh, you were one of the guys who stayed in Charles's villa, right? That's right. How you doing? As well as can be expected under the circumstances. Was it you I spoke to about the twin soul phenomenon? You remembered, yeah. At the time I was on the lookout for mine. Did you find her? Nah, it was just a passing fad. But you met yours, that's something, right? It was a roller coaster ride. And look how it ended up. It was special, even I could see that. How well did you know Charles? We grew up in the same village. When his father died, he came to England, and not long after, I went to America with my parents. You flew over from America? Yeah, I wouldn't have missed this for the world. We were very close when we were boys. We lost contact for a number of years, but I managed to find him on Facebook. That's when he invited me to your wedding. It was good catching up with him. Sorry for your loss. It's okay. Life goes on. So you're over him now? No, I'm still healing. Do you mind if we keep in contact? I'd like to be there when you do feel ready for another relationship. Suzanne stares at him in disbelief. That's the last thing on my mind right now. I know, but I might not get this opportunity again, so I'm just saying, whenever you're ready. He hands her his business card. Do you promise to call me? Suzanne takes the card. As he walks away, she admires his tall, lean structure, dark, shiny skin, and regal look in his African garms. The cost of not following your heart is spending the rest of your life wishing you had. J. Paulson. Ready for love? Suzanne sprawls across her bed, looking at Ishmael's business card. She decides to call him long distance. Hi, Is that Ishmael? Yeah, who's calling? It's Cezanne. You gave me your card at the memorial 2 weeks ago. Cezanne, good to hear from you. How you doing? I'm good, thanks. I just thought I'd call to find out a bit more about you. I know you live in America. Your business card says you're a carpenter, painter and decorator, but I'm sure there's more to you than that. I'm flattered. Well, yeah, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And you're right, I do have other interests apart from my career. Like what? Well, I love studying esoteric knowledge and discovering things that are hidden in plain sight. Such as? Now that would be getting ahead of ourselves. Certain things I don't like to discuss over the phone. But this reminds me of something Charles said the night before your wedding. Oh, what was that? Well, he did say to make sure it didn't go past the 4 walls. Just tell me. All right. He mentioned something about you both being transported to another dimension when you made love. Is that true? Well, we did develop something extraordinary, but it took years to get to that level. Do you think it had something to do with your financial success? Cezanne pauses to ponder the question. Now I think about it, something did happen one night, and within a year we'd built a successful business. That's what I thought. Did you perform a sex ritual? A what? Never mind. Maybe you did it subconsciously. You were twin souls after all. That might have made it easier for you. Easier for us to do what? To manifest your desires using your sexual energy. Excuse me, I don't know how we got talking about sex so quickly. I think you're right, though. We did this thing one night that I'd seen in a dream. Or it could have been a vision. What did you do? Well, I was straddling him, and we were deep breathing together, and I was guiding him to build a clear image in his mind of what he wanted to manifest. Sounds like you performed a sex ritual without even knowing what you were doing. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I've done lots of research on them. What kind of research? She asks cheekily. All kinds. Mostly theory, though. Don't get any ideas. This isn't a booty call, you know. They both laugh. Seriously, though, I'd really like to get to know you better. But since we live on opposite sides of the world, it'll have to be long distance, for now. Well, I'm leaving for Ghana in 2 weeks. Oh yeah, to take his ashes back to our village, right? Your village? Remember I told you we grew up in Ghana? Who are you going with? I'm going by myself. How come? Ma Unkra doesn't want to go. She said she wants her last memory of getting on a plane to be a happy one. The boys are studying and helping run the business. Besides, I feel this is my journey, so I'm going alone. What about Junior? Aren't you taking him? I wouldn't be able to cope. Maria and Dave have offered to look after him. Nah, man, you have to take him. The elders would want him to be there. He's next in line in his father's lineage. I can fly over to help if you like. It would be nice to visit my village again. Plus, it would give us an opportunity to get to know each other better. No strings attached. Okay, I'll think about it. Sankofa. 2 of Charles's relatives are at Kotoka International Airport to collect Cezanne when she arrives in Ghana with Charles Jr. Uncle Kojo and Auntie Abena greet her enthusiastically. Akwaba! What does that mean? Cezanne asks. It means welcome. How was your flight? Uncle Kojo asks, taking her bags while Auntie Abena takes Charles Jr. Not as bad as I thought it would be with a toddler. It's a good thing Ishmael suggested sending our things over in a barrel, so I didn't have to carry too much. Has he arrived yet? Yes, he said he would meet us in the lounge area. Hi, Kwame, how are you? Auntie Abena sings to Junior. She turns to Cezanne. It's like having little Kwame with us all over again. He's so handsome, just like his father. And you, of course. Thank you. How do you say thank you in tree? You would say madasi or madasi pa. Madasi. Wow, it's so hot. Don't worry, we have air conditioning in the car. I'm not complaining. I like the heat. As they make their way to the car park, Ishmael spots them and calls out, waving at them as he pulls along his suitcase. "Ah, you made it!" Uncle Kojo greets him. "Yeah, I had to. It's so good to be back home." He turns to Cezanne. "Hi, Suzanne. How was your flight?" They hug formally. "Not as bad as I thought it would be." They all get into the people carrier. During the drive from Accra to Kumasi in the Ashanti region, Suzanne strikes up a conversation with Charles's relatives. "How well did you know Charles?" "Well, we know him as Kwame. He was a young boy when he left our village, after his father passed away. It was more his mother who kept in contact with us." "Oh, that's a shame. We discussed coming a few times, but kept putting it off. We were going to bring the baby after he was born." "Never mind, he has returned now. You have his ashes, don't you?" Kojo asks. "Yes, they're here in my hand luggage." "Good, because everything is arranged. The ceremony will take place first thing in the morning." Ashes to dust. The send-off is an elaborate affair, with the chief of the village conducting the proceedings. The whole village has gathered for the ceremony. Chief Kofu is sitting on an elaborately carved wooden throne with his kente cloth thrown across his shoulder, wearing an abundance of gold jewellery and coral. Speaking in Tree, the chief calls for Kwame's ashes to be brought forward. Ishmael translates for Suzanne, who tries to hand him the urn. "Nah, you take it. Do you want me to come with you?" he whispers. Suzanne nods. Ishmael takes Charles Jr. from Auntie Abena and accompanies Suzanne to the chief. As she hands him the urn, Chief Kofu addresses her in English. "Thank you for bringing our son home. This is his son, yes?" "Yes." He asks Ishmael to place Junior on his lap and holds on to him with one hand while holding the urn in the other. He speaks to the crowd loudly in Tree. "A distant relative has returned to be laid to rest. Let us all welcome him home." Ishmael translates for Suzanne. The crowd cheer, clap and dance. Drummers play the djembe and talking drums energetically. Chief Kofu continues in his native tongue. "When a wanderer returns home, it is as one who has returned to their roots. Kwame never forgot where he came from and has made his Sankofa back to his motherland." Suzanne recognizes the word Sankofa. "What did he just say?" she asks Ismail, who translates. "I want to make my Sankofa too." "You are?" The chief holds the urn up to the sky and speaks incantations in Tree before asking Suzanne in English to remove the lid. As she does so, he speaks loudly again in Tree. "Kwame, we welcome you home." He stands up, still carrying the toddler, and walks into the middle of the crowd. As he turns full circle, he throws Kwame's ashes into the ground, which fall in a circle around them. "May the ancestors guide and protect you on the rest of your journey. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust." Ishmael translates for Suzanne. She bows her head in sorrow. "Ashes to ashes, dust to dust," she whispers solemnly. Chief Kofu steps out of the circle and returns to his throne, still carrying Charles Jr. The drummers play furiously as the village women begin singing and dancing on Kwame's ashes. Tears stream down Suzanne's face. "He's home now, don't cry," Ishmael reassures her. When everyone settles down, Chief Kofu beckons Suzanne to come forward. Ishmael accompanies her as she approaches his throne. The chief addresses her in English. "Akwaba, pleased to meet you. What is your name?" "Suzanne, Your Honour." She courtesies. Is this your first time in Ghana? Yes, Your Honour. Why did you not come for your traditional wedding? We heard Kwame was getting married and expected him to come home for his proper wedding before tying the knot elsewhere. Our young people leave and forget about our customs. He booms. We did discuss it, but it just never happened. She bows her head in shame. Chief Kofu turns to Ishmael. Good to see you again, young warrior. Where is your dear wife? We're going through a divorce. It didn't work out. Chief Kofu sighs deeply. You see, you young people, you pick up the Western ways and forget what you were taught about the importance of family. Is there no chance of reconciliation? Why did you not bring her with you? We could have counselled you both together. Yeah, well, it's a bit late for that now. She's seeing someone else. Abomination! What about your children? They're fine. They're all grown now. Chief Kofu turns back to Cezanne. Thank you for bringing Kwame's son home. What is his name? Charles Jr., Your Honour. Did he inherit his grandfather's and great-grandfather's names, as is our custom? She wants to correct him and say, in his it, but thinks the better of it. Yes, Your Honour. Chief Kofu smiled broadly at Charles Jr., who smiles back at him, giggling. He holds him up in his arms and playfully talks to him in Tree. Turning back to Cezanne, he asks what day Charles Jr. was born. Friday. Ah, so we will name him Kofi, which means born on Friday. Do you know what day you were born? Yes, I was born on a Friday too. Ah, okay, so you can choose from Afua or Afia. Cezanne pauses to think before replying. Afia, please. Good, now you are one of us. Chief Kofu performs a naming ceremony for them both before signalling the women from the village, who bring her fabrics in various African prints. They measure her to make dresses and say they will make an outfit for Kofi too. Oh my, what can I say? Medase. She shows gratitude emotionally. You're welcome to stay with us as long as you like. The women will take care of you, the chief announces. He turns to Ishmael. So are you two together now? No, I'm just here to support her. Well, if you're going to support her, do it properly. Cezanne looks embarrassed as they glance at each other. There, see, I got the chief's blessings. Ishmael leans over and whispers in her ear. Honouring the ancestors. That night, they all sit outside around a campfire while the elders tell stories of what they can remember from when Kwame and Ishmael were growing up. They also tell stories about Kwame's grandfather, Gyasi, who was the village chief before the current chief took over. Just think, if Kwame's mother had remained in the village and married the next in line to the throne, as is our custom, little Kofi would now be heir to the throne, says one of the elders. Kwame, never told me his grandfather was chief of the village, Cezanne exclaims. Maybe he forgot, replies the chief. Ishmael stands up and gets ready to head to his quarters. We have an early start tomorrow. I've organised a tour to Cape Coast. The driver will be here at 10 a.m. You should get some rest too. The following morning, Auntie Abina knocks on Cezanne's door as she prepares to leave. Why don't you leave Kofi with us? He'll be fine. Cezanne watches as her son plays in the dust outside with the village children. He looks happy. She imagines his father as a child doing the same, which isn't hard to do. I would, but we're going to be out all day. He might miss me. I'd rather take him with me for peace of mind. She prepares his porridge and lets Auntie Abina feed him before letting the women get him washed and dressed. At 10 a.m, Ishmael knocks on the door. Are you ready? Yes, can you take Junior to the car, please? Sure. Ishmael takes the toddler from Cezanne and heads to the 7-seater, while she double-checks that she's packed everything she will need. Wipes, food, water, juice, spare nappies, nappy sacks. Uncle Kojo and Auntie Abina accompany them on the 4-hour drive to Cape Coast. They arrive by 2:30 p.m. after a short stop-off. Ishmael jumps out first to sort out admission for everyone. He returns with a tour guide. Everyone ready? Yes! They all pile out of the car. Ishmael takes Junior from Cezanne and carries him up the rocky steps to the castle. Sister Okofu, an initiated African-American priestess, is waiting to meet them, dressed all in white. Greetings, welcome! She hugs and kisses them one by one. Will you be showing us around? Cezanne asks. No, I'll be conducting the ceremony to our ancestors, she informs her. As they take the tour of Cape Coast Castle, the tour guide explains how captured Africans were kept in squalid conditions in dungeons before being shipped off the continent, never to be seen again. They take the steps down into one of the dungeons. Junior starts crying. Auntie Abina offers to take him back outside. Kojo joins her. As they stand in the dungeon, Cezanne begins to weep as she senses the utter hopelessness her ancestors felt. She imagines them chained to one another, sitting in the dark, awaiting their unknown fate. She can still feel and smell the residue of their trauma. The tour guide explains how the dungeons were built directly underneath the enslavers' church, so while their services were going on, captured Africans were being held in squalid conditions right underneath. Cezanne believes this was their symbolic way of showing how they used religion to get the upper hand. Sister Okofu begins the ceremony. She lights some candles and puts some fruit, honey, eggs and various other foods on a tray. She prays over them before offering everyone a piece to eat. She then places what's left on the tray on the altar to leave as an offering to their ancestors. Cezanne asks if she can recite her poem, Who Am I? Sister Okofu agrees. Who am I? I am a remnant of my ancestors, torn from my motherland by the rape of slave traders. When she has finished, they all sing redemption songs together before Sister Okofu closes the ceremony. The tour guide takes them to the door of no return, where captured Africans had passed through to be loaded onto the ships like cargo. He informs them that the first ship to sail was called the Good Ship Jesus. The exit from the dungeons is small and narrow, showing how malnourished captives had been. Ishmael, who is over 6 feet tall, finds it difficult to fit through the opening. The tour guide informs them that Africans who passed through this door would never again return to their motherland, which is why it had been named the Door of No Return. But, he adds, their descendants are now coming home. The following day, they stay in the village recuperating from the previous day's activities, which had been physically and emotionally draining for Cezanne. They had also visited Elmina Castle 20 minutes away from Cape Castle, another place where captured Africans had been held before being shipped off to be sold into slavery. They spend the day relaxing and learning common phrases in Tree like, "How are you?" "Etesen." "How much is it?" "Sen." "And what is your name?" "Wodisen." Junior has settled in nicely and has taken a particular liking to Chief Kofu, who appears to feel the same. He sits outside, dealing with community issues with the toddler on his lap, and watches over him as he plays with the other children. Cezanne asks the women to make matching tops for Micah and Elijah in the same material as her dresses, for which she offers to pay them extra. That night at communal dinner, Ishmael asks Cezanne if she would like to visit the cantonments, where apparently there's a big African American community. She agrees. The cantonments. The car pulls up outside a large, white, 2-story building. Sister Okofu, another sister and a brother are sitting outside talking, dressed in full African gowns. Cezanne is wearing one of the dresses the village women had made. As she leaves the van, Ishmael helps her step down. "You look amazing. You're going to fit in perfectly here." "Thank you." Sister Okofu and the others stand up to greet them. She introduces Cezanne to Brother Omari and Sister Kenyatta, who shake her hand. "Where's the baby?" she asks. "Oh, we left him in the village with his relatives. I thought another long drive would be too much for him," Cezanne explains. "Good to see you again." She gives Sister Okofu a hug. "Likewise. How long are you in Ghana for?" "Just 3 more days. It's going by so quickly." "Well, you could always extend your stay," Ishmael suggests, hopefully. "I have to get back and help with the business. I'm way behind on my work already." Sit down. Would you like a drink?" Sister Kenyatta asks, ushering them into their seats. "Yes, please. My water's finished." Sister Kenyatta calls one of the maids to prepare some refreshments. "Tell me more about this place," Cezanne asks Sister Okofu. "We set up these headquarters to start a movement here in Ghana, to encourage our people to come home. The plan was to reunite the descendants of enslaved Africans with those left on the continent," she explains. "How's that going?" "Not as easy as we first thought. Those left on the continent endured their own brainwashing through colonialism. It's almost impossible to reintegrate because of the mindset of the people here. They were deliberately undereducated to make it easier for them to be exploited, and were told not to trust us returnees. But we're determined to bridge the gap between the two." "That's admirable. I'd like to make a donation to your work here. Charles set up a benevolence fund as the charitable arm of our business to help rebuild our community. Send me a plan of what you aim to accomplish and give me some figures, and I'll arrange for a payment to be sent." "Wow, that's very generous of you, Cezanne, but that's not the reason I brought you here," Ishmael interrupts. "I know, but that's the least I can do. This is Charles's homeland, and I'd like to see more descendants return too. Anything I can do to help further the work you're doing here, I will." "Thank you. We appreciate your generosity. Come, let me give you a tour of the building," Sister Okofu says.
She calling you. Baby, come closer. I wanna get to know you. I wanna take you somewhere. And let me find a way to know if it is somewhere that you wanna go. I'ma take you back to the country I know. Show you the things that I have been through. Treat you like the CEO you wanna be. Yes, I know you're right to the T. Got your lips.
On their way back to the village, Ishmael realises he's running out of time. He needs to step up his game. "I'm really enjoying getting to know you better, Cezanne. I'm so glad I came." "Me too. I don't know how I would have got through all this without you." "Well, I want to find out if what I'm feeling is real, or if I'm just being delusional." He leans over and whispers in her ear. "Like I said, I'm still healing. I can help you to heal. Don't you think Charles would have wanted you to be happy? You spent a whole year mourning already. You've laid him to rest. Now it's time to move on." Cezanne stares at him in disbelief. "Charles wasn't just anybody, you know. He was my twin soul." She takes hold of the gold necklace around her neck, carrying the ankh Charles had bought her in Egypt, and his wedding ring. I know, I'm sorry if I sounded pushy. Look, I appreciate you coming out here to support me and everything, and I really don't mind getting to know you better, but let's just take it slow, okay? Okay. Over the next 2 days, Ishmael takes Cezanne to visit the Kwame Nkrumah monument built to honour the president who led Ghana into independence from Britain in 1957. They also visit Kakum National Park, where she crosses a series of bridges so high up she can see the treetops far below, which reminds her of the dream she had when she first slept with Charles. They also visit the craft market, where she gets to see how kente cloth is made and how the Adinkra symbols are printed onto cloth. She buys some to take back to England and buys some hand-carved gifts to take home as well. We shall meet again. At the airport, Auntie Abena and Uncle Kojo help Suzanne with Kojo and their luggage. She checks them into the first-class fast-track service before rejoining the group. Chief Kofu has also come to the airport with his entourage and is causing quite a scene. People are taking photos and pointing as he speaks quietly with Ishmael while carrying the toddler. When he sees Suzanne returning, he indicates for her to join them. I'm sorry to see you go so soon. Next time, you should stay longer. He jiggles Charles Jr. on his arm, who laughs out loud. They have formed a bond. I'm serious, he says to Suzanne sternly. Don't leave it a year, 2 years before we see him again. In fact, you should be leaving him with us now. Suzanne panics at the thought and moves forward to take Junior from him, but he holds on to him tightly. Ishmael intervenes. He's very important to their lineage, Suzanne, he explains to her. Maybe you should consider letting them raise him when he's a bit older. I'll think about it. She takes Junior from Chief Kofu, who surrenders him this time, quoting an African proverb as he hands him over. The young bird does not crow until he hears the old ones. Thank you for everything. We will be back. I can see you've grown fond of each other, she says gratefully. Here, take my number. Make sure to keep in touch and video call me often. I want to see how well he's growing until he returns. The chief signals to one of his aides to give Suzanne his personal number. He turns to Ishmael again. Remember what I told you. An orphaned calf licks its own back. We cannot have him fending for himself. He needs a good role model, someone who has been raised in our village and knows our customs. It's not up to me to decide, but I'll do my best. Ishmael turns to Suzanne. Well, this is where we say goodbye. For now. Let me know when you get home safely, okay? Will do. They hug warmly before boarding separate planes. End of year 13 and end of Journey of a Sister. First of all, I'd like to thank my source, Infinite Intelligence, from where all my inspiration flows. I thank my higher self for connecting me with my source so I can channel beautiful literature, poems and art for the benefit of humanity. I also thank my ancestors for guidance and my angel Sahalia for divine protection. To my sons, Xavier, Sanchez and Asaba, I know you love me and you know I love you too. I know what I do doesn't make any sense to you and all you want is a mother, but I trust we'll be reunited soon. I was inspired to give you all names with the letters A and Z in them for the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Know you are gods and then raise your consciousness levels and become kings. Azzy, thank you for creating all the beats for these audiobooks.
It sounds like you created them especially for this project, but I know you are just being divinely inspired. You have a special gift which will make a way for you. I hope to be able to start paying you your royalties soon. Sanchez, I'm very proud of you and your accomplishments. You inspired my track, Chasing Peas with a Purpose. Be sure to discover and fulfill your soul purpose too. Xavier, may God richly bless you as you continue to discover the purpose for which you were created. I'll never forget the words God spoke to me when I discovered I was pregnant with you. An unmarried Christian woman, I was seriously considering termination. But God told me He had a plan for my son's life, and that's how I knew I was having a boy. Just remember, there's more than one way to get to God, and the only way I know is by going within. I'm so proud of you, Xavier. In fact, you've all done me so proud. I love you. Next, I thank my brother Antonio Noel for helping me to record these audiobooks in his home studio. We'd never recorded audiobooks before, and it was a big project to undertake. Unfortunately, they weren't accepted by Audible because of the recording levels, but rather than scrap the whole project, I decided to upload them to YouTube for your listening pleasure. Thank you, Noel. May God richly bless you. I'd also like to thank my mother Melita and my late father Ralston Fletcher for coming together at the exact right time for me to be born, at the perfect time and place for me to fulfill my soul purpose. Next, I'd like to thank my loyal friend Errol McGlashan for helping me to edit the first edition of this book in 2010, and for helping me to develop a male voice. Errol would just rewrite whole scenes, like the part in Year 7 when Charles was begging Cezanne to take him back. It was Errol who wrote the church scene in Year 1. I edited it for a change, gave Malachi his Yardi accent, and suggested killing off one of the main characters because them living happily ever after was just too cliché. I only agreed because it became symbolic of the death of my on-off relationship with my twin soul after 18 years. Errol also helped me turn my book into a film script in 2019. Errol, I owe you big time. And how could I forget my twin soul, who I'll just call H, for triggering my awakening in 2001, which led to me writing this book. The way we met was so profound, I wrote it into Year 1 of this story. It was as if we were caught in a time warp where everything around us was blurred out and the whole room, as packed as it was, became silent. It was so bizarre we never even talked about it. Until 9 years later when I started writing this book. I emailed him Year 1 and he called me the following morning to give his account of what had happened that day. That's when I realised he'd had a similar experience. He told me to include it in the story, but not in Year 1. Throw it in randomly, he said. Is the part in Year 5 where Charles was having a flashback memory. And no, we're not together. The purpose of Twin Souls meeting isn't necessarily to live happily ever after, it's to help raise the collective consciousness, which we achieved through this book. The twin soul template means that one is usually stuck in this 3D matrix while the other is 5th dimensional, which makes it a very difficult match. While writing the Twin Soul Phenomenon book, I came up with a new template designed for 5D twin souls like myself, which I think would work much better. Our relationship was an emotional roller coaster, which also inspired me to write my poem, Is This Love?, featured in Year 4.
Is this love? A yearning, burning feeling in my heart?
I wrote it in 2002 but never recorded it because I thought it was too sad. But in 2020 I was forced to record it for the audiobooks. But with my son Azzy playing the piano and my friend Wadada playing the sax, it turned out to be a beautiful heartbreak poem. Thank you, Wadada, for your friendship over the years and for always encouraging me when I was feeling down and for playing for me in live performances. Hopefully I'll be able to pay you from now on. Same goes to acoustic guitarist Theo Caliste, who I stayed with during a period of homelessness between 2009 and 2010. During that time, I wrote lyrics to 8 of his compositions for my first poetry collection, Seeds of Love, and also painted my first collection, Nature's Art. Thank you, Theo, for your love and support during this difficult part of my journey, having been separated from my children for the first time. I'd also like to thank my spiritual teachers, some who are still with us and some who have passed over. Firstly, Queen Afua, whose books Heal Thyself and Sacred Woman were pivotal to my self-healing journey. Robin Walker for teaching us the positive side of our history, the late Dr. Laila Africa for teaching us about melanin, and Leon Marshall for taking over the baton with his book The Hidden Science of Melanin. I'd also like to thank my Facebook friend Paradise Free Jalav from the USA for allowing me to use his poem prayer affirmation for the healing of the nation in year 8. It resonated with me so much that I memorized it and made it the mantra for the Soul Purpose Tribe. There's a link in the description to watch me recite it. I also thank Viv Armoud for allowing me to use the photo of him in Egypt for year 8, and Yashmael Amen of the Patar Council for performing the burning ritual with me to deprogram the subconscious mind of the white saviour image. The burning ritual is in year 2, and the link to watch us perform it is in the description. I'd also like to thank all my friends and family who have supported me on my publishing journey since the first edition, especially my sister Jackie, my brother Noel, my sons Xavier Sanchez and Azaba, Kwame McPherson, who encouraged me to publish my first book and attended my first book launch, Errol McGlashan, Teresa Semprix, and all who have purchased my books, art and poetry over the years. Finally, thank you for investing in yourself by listening to these audiobooks. Listen to them again and again to retain the ancestral messages in them. Order your paperback and join me at an upcoming book signing and discussion event where we will discuss the topics raised in the story openly. These are a great way for us to discuss how we can repair our relationships and rebuild our community. I'll also be performing poems featured in this story, and they're great networking opportunities too. See the link in description to watch a previous book signing and discussion event and sponsor my book tour to help me spread my message far and wide, and you can help me by organising an event near you. And if you're looking for a special gift for a loved one, get them a book. They make great gifts. Alternatively, download the ebook and join me online via Zoom for my weekly book club starting on the 11th of November, where we will discuss each year of the story week by week. All 13 poems in my Seeds of Love collection feature in Journey of a Sister. The book of lyrics used to come with a CD, but now you can listen to all the poems on this channel under the playlist Poems That Feature in Journey of a Sister. Order your book of lyrics and download your favourite poems and poem songs in MP3 format. Continue your journey of self-discovery by watching my Black History 365 vlog series, which covers topics such as the origins of Christianity, the symbolism used in the Adam and Eve story, Jesus' relationship to the Cosmic Mother, who the Black woman is in relation to the Cosmic Mother, and the biblical Eve, why religion suppressed the feminine energy and omitted the Divine Mother. It's time to remember who the Black woman is and return her to her rightful position so balance can be restored. The vlogs include messages from the Ancestral Mothers, who I channel. And let's also remember the role of the melanated man and return him to his rightful position too. You can also watch videos of the fictional characters I created to expand on the topics raised in this story. See the playlist Felicia and Co. I was also inspired to write and illustrate 2 short stories which you can listen to free on YouTube. One is titled Pick Me, which is about the purpose of flowers, and The Sheep That Dare to Dream. If you're the black sheep of the family, you'll love this story. They're for old souls in children's bodies and for adults who want to nurture their inner child. You can also download my ebook Pimp, which explains how I became a plant medicine pusher, and the twin soul phenomenon in which I share my her story about meeting my twin soul, which led me to writing this book, and explains what you can do if you meet your twin flame. You can also order the paperback of my other book, How to Get the Ring on Your Finger, which has contributions from over 30 brothers. I'll put the links in the description for you to get your book and to watch the book launch. I discovered my soul purpose in 1998 and started fulfilling it in 2001. Now, I want to help you discover and fulfill your soul purpose too. Start by taking my free Soul Purpose Discovery Challenge. By the end of it, you'll know your life path number, the phase the moon was in when you were born and why that's important, your archetype, and you'll get a free natal chart reading which will help you sail through life with a bit more direction. Once you've taken my free Soul Purpose Discovery Challenge, you'll then be invited to join our Soul Purpose Tribe. Listen to my revolutionary spoken word track, Imagine a World, and join the Loveolution. Those who think they can change the world are the ones who do. Now, as an indie author, I rely on word-of-mouth advertising to spread my message. So if you've enjoyed listening to this story, share the link to the playlist with your friends, family, and on social media saying what you liked about it, and tag me in it too. Subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment, and hit the notification button so you know when the new videos go up. To keep updated with my activities, join me on social media. I look forward to seeing you online or in person soon. Yours truly, Cezanne Poetess.